Good morning. Good to have a few minutes together. And I'm always happy to take time to look at the Word of God and jump into to the Bible for a few minutes with friends. And thank you for taking time and for praying for the ministries here at Faith Baptist and for your church and for the work of God around the country. And also want to encourage you to take time to pray for the political situation, I guess we could say. God's got it well in hand, and yet we're not going to go there today, but in Ezekiel, God says, I marveled, I looked, and he said, I marveled that there was no man, that there was no intercessor. And God is a little taken back in that text because nobody was praying for their country. Nobody was interceding. Jeremiah writes, run you to and fro in the streets and see if there's anybody who just execute righteousness and seek judgment. And God says, I'll pardon your country. And it does matter. Now, there's confusion on this matter of the sovereignty of God and the free will of man and how they merge. And I won't go into that today. But I'll just say that it matters that you care. If you don't care, why should God care? If you and I don't care enough to pray for our country, why should God care? You know, our country's already crossed enough lines. God could certainly pour out any amount of judgment on our nation, and it would be less than we deserve for the way we've treated him, his book, and his people, and his morals, outlawing the 10 Commandments in courtrooms and in schools. I mean, we don't even need to go any further than that, just that. And we need to pray for our country. And again, God has a plan, but I would urge you, pray for your nation, pray for your churches, pray for parents that are in the question mark area. What do we do? Even unsaved parents, where the schools are so clearly against America, against morals, against common decency, against the family. And with that going on, how could God not work on their hearts? And you know, there's a lot of good people, and they're not all saved. They're not all church-going, Bible-reading people. They're good people, and pray for the people that God is working on their hearts, that they would realize they need to stand up and do some things. Pull their kids out of the schools they're in. They may need to go to find a preacher somewhere, a Christian friend, and ask and find out what the Bible says about where we are and what we're facing. But these are delicate days. These are to the Bible reading child of God. These are exciting days. And I know there's a little shadow that comes over because we all have flesh and we all have our battles. But I want to encourage you. These are great days for the child of God, but the unsaved conservative, let's say, where does he run? What is his hope? What is his refuge? And it's very, very awkward and difficult. And I've got too many things here to talk about this morning, but I'll just mention one thing, and I'm going to be in 2 Chronicles chapter 22 and then in the book of Proverbs. But let me just give you a thought or two here. I'm not going to show you, read the title of these books, but I got to my office and there's an envelope here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 pamphlets and I guess a couple of 100-page book, 250-page book, and there was a post-it note inside. God bless. That's all it said, and they're all on a Christian theme. And I just very lightly skimmed through a couple of things, and I looked at the publishing name, who published. I didn't recognize the publisher, and so I just went to to the internet and looked to the publishing company, and it's a husband and wife team that started it. It's a fairly large organization, a lot of employees in different people ministry. It's a Christian group, no question about it. They're very outspoken about their faith. Their goal is to get the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ out, and they're addressing the issues of our times, from all the political issues you can think of. I saw little headlines to everything that's political. from the medical world to the Washington to you name it, and I just glanced through. Now, I've not read them, and unless I can get a reference on them, I'm not going to read them. I have so much good stuff to read, starting with my Bible. And most of us don't read our Bibles enough. And I don't know what that word enough is. That's between you and God. But when I look at my Bible and I look at the good, godly Christian books that I read some, and I haven't gone through. I've got 3 right here on my desk. I'm looking 3 on my desk that I've not finished that I'm reading, and I've got another half dozen at home that I've read. Now, some books I read in the sense of reference. I go to them, I open them up, find something I read, maybe pages, chapters, whatever, put it back on the shelf, and it may be months or years before I open that exact same book again because of different reasons. A lot of books are for reference and looking for a truth, a principle, comments on some circumstance, whether it be history or geography or Bible. But a reference of some kind would cause me to be more thorough. And now here's the point, and I'm going to show you some scripture to go along with this. I don't know who wrote these books. Now, if I've got a good friend in Bethany, Oklahoma, right outside Oklahoma City, Brother Alan Donnelly. He's been a friend for decades, faithful, steady, just a great Christian guy, an evangelist for many, many years. And out of the clear blue, stepped out of evangelism and into the pulpit for the first time in his 50s. He's a pastor, and he never pastored before, and he's doing a great job. What a great job he's doing. Boy, I just love I've been there several times, and I love the spirit. I love the new converts and people you can tell from every walk of life. And it's I remember I guess it was 2 years ago, year and a half ago, I was preaching there. And there was a missionary family sang, and the kids sang. 4, 5, 6 kids stood up and sang, good song. And this guy stood up, and he had the only thing I really remember about him is fire engine red hair, and he stood up waving his hands, saying amen, and he looked unusual, we'll just say. And I leaned over to Brother Donnelly, and I said, that guy's, he's happy about this. He said, yeah, he's a young Christian and he's excited and growing. And I remember Brother Hiles, when we were in college, or maybe after I pastored a while, he made a comment. He said, if you don't have somebody trying to slip out of your church between Sunday school and church to have a cigarette, you're not going soul winning enough. And you need to have people that are growing. And so somebody's really young in their Christian life, and they may not just look just like everybody else or whatever. I mean, I remember when I got saved, I owned a suit coat and a tie that I had to get for a senior class picture, my high school senior class, and that was probably March, April, and I got saved in August that year, and then left for college, and I didn't have any reason to wear a tie or a suit or anything, and I don't know what I would have looked like. I got saved on a Wednesday, left for college, and within a short time, I went to a Baptist church right near campus, and circumstances brought me there, and I'm grateful for it. But I just think, I don't know what I wore, I don't know how I looked or anything, but I went with a hungry heart. And I remember a lady singing the song, Jesus, Jesus. There's just something about that name. And she had a beautiful voice. And I remember thinking, that's what I want. That's what I want with all my heart. And I can tell you, I may not have looked like much on the outside, but there was a longing in my heart to know Christ, to know him personally and intimately, and to know his book. And so anyway, back to where I was, Brother Donnelly, I like his church because there's mature Christians there. There's young Christians just excited and growing, and good crowds of people out soul winning. But anyhow, now Brother Donnelly had said, hey, Brother Goddard, I sent you some booklets from this writer, this group of writers from this publishing house in this state. Man, this is some great stuff. In that case, I wouldn't even hesitate to read them, to use them, to put them in our bookstore or whatever. But these, if I can't get a reference on them, I'm busy. And some might say, why don't you read them, see if they're good? For one, I am really short on time. And for another, everything that we see And everything we hear, everything we read is going to influence us somehow. In the book of Acts, the apostles said, we cannot but speak the things which we've seen and heard. And the things that we see and hear do influence us. You that are older, say 50 and older, you know there's much more vulgarity in the common conversation of our community than there was 50 years ago. And but I think it's because of all the TV. Cursing on TV is flippant and common. Bad words are just normal. Indiscreet terms, inappropriate terms, indiscreet comments. It's just common. You can't have a comedian unless they're talking about indiscreet or inappropriate. And how do people make people laugh 20, 50, 70 years ago? They had decent humor. But because our entertainment has gotten vulgar, so and people watch so much TV, now they have become very comfortable using vocabulary that's entirely inappropriate to a decent, cultured American citizen. But the point is this: what we get around and what we read and what we see influences us. There's a story. I'm going to read a verse here in Second Chronicles in a minute, and I won't go to these others. There's so many stories. There was a king who won a battle, and he's down far away from home, and he wins this battle, and he sees this altar, an elegant, ornate altar where these people he just whooped did their worship deal, whatever kind of worship they did. Who knows? Oxen, babies, human babies, and I don't know. And he saw that, and he had the drawings and design of it sent back to Israel, and told the people in charge, make me an altar like this. I like how this looks. See, he let what he saw influence him, and he brought something tragic back into and God was not pleased. We'll just summarize it with that. But what he saw and what he got hanging around influenced him. Now, in Second Chronicles 22, there's a guy named Ahaziah, and again, there's several things going on here, but Ahaziah, let's see, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem made Ahaziah, his youngest son, king in his stead, for the band of men that came with the Arabians to the camp had slain the eldest. So Ahaziah, the son of Jehoram, was king of Judah, and he reigned. And then 42 years old was Ahaziah when he began to reign, and he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem. His mother's name also was Athaliah, the daughter of Omri. Now this is the king of Judah, southern kingdom, and Athaliah and her family was from the northern kingdom, and the northern kingdom had turned on God 100 years before. And but in verse 3, 4, and 5, it says, he also walked in the ways of the house of Ahab, for his mother was his counselor to do wickedly. Wherefore he did evil in the sight of the Lord, like the house of Ahab, for they were his counselors after the death of his father, to his destruction. He walked also after their counsel. You see the word counsel over and over and over. Now, when there's a word repeated, I've talked about this before. When you see a word repeated over and over and over, there's a reason. He's wanting you to pay attention. This is a lesson on counsel. And verse 5, when he walked after their counsel, he went with Jehoram, the son of Ahab, king of Israel, to war against Hazael, king of Syria, Ramoth Gilead, and the Syrians smote Joram. Now, all that to say this one simple thing: he got bad counsel. He married wrong. He got hanging around the wrong people. And by the way, you could read the story, and I believe his parents had the wrong friends, and so he grew up with the kids of his parents' wrong friends, and so he married wrong because his parents had the wrong friends. And I try to make sure that the people I hang around that their children, if I'm going to be around somebody and their kids, and my kids are going to be around their kids, I want their kids to be a good influence on my kids. As best as I know how. Obviously, we don't know everything, but I'm going to try. And I'm not going to say, well, these are my friends and my kids could tough it out. No, I'm here to train my children. And if it means me getting new friends or having no friends, I'm going to have my kids in the right environment. And here this guy married wrong, and then his mother was from the northern kingdom, and his wife was from the northern kingdom. So all his counselors were not good counselors, and got him in all kinds of trouble. Go over to Proverbs chapter 20. Proverbs chapter 20, there's a couple more verses along these same lines. And of course, Proverbs is filled with verses on counsel. And I would encourage you to go through the book of Proverbs, and every time it talks about counsel and advice and things like that, mark those somehow so you can look at them and remember them. Proverbs chapter 20, verse 18. Proverbs 20:18, every purpose is established by counsel, and with good advice make war. Now that's about as clear as it can be. Everything you do that's going to be established, it'll be established with good counsel or bad counsel, and with good advice make war. And so it's so vital we understand who is influencing us, who we're looking at, who we're reading. Go over to chapter 24, Proverbs chapter 24, and go down to verse 6. Proverbs 24, verse 6. For by wise counsel thou shalt make thy war, and in multitude of counselors there is safety. Now, over and over and over in the Bible, it talks about who it is that's going to influence us, who it is that's going to get their little thoughts in our head. And I urge you, be careful. Now, this stack of books here, these things could be quality. And I'm not going to just go toss them because they could be the right kind of thing from the right kind of background. I'm not going to recommend them. I hope I didn't show you even what they were or where they were from, because I wouldn't want to recommend them. I don't know anything about them. And I'm very careful what I read. This 39 years here in our church since we started, 46 years now as a Christian. I didn't keep on by running with any old dog that came down the street. And I'm very guarded who I listen to and who I get advice from. And I want to encourage you, be guarded. Now, many of you, you're older and maybe younger people as well. Be careful who you get medical advice from. Well, our insurance puts me here. Well, you know what? Maybe your insurance didn't put you with the right doctor. And if you're making life-changing decisions, you might go find a different doctor for a second opinion. That's up to you. I'm just telling you, we let too many times, we get railroaded in decision-making. And the fact is, it's okay to pay just call them up, say, look, I'm going to pay cash. I'm just coming for a consultation. And make an appointment and pray and ask God. Medical decisions are huge. What you do. I heard I want to say it was the opening NFL game, but it may not be. I'm not the best at remembering every detail, but there was a Christian gal that was contracted to sing the national anthem, and I heard her sing it once, and she plays guitar, beautiful voice, and a beautiful guitar player, like a classical guitar, not an electric guitar, not a rock music. This was so honoring to the traditional national anthem, and in a huge open stadium out in the middle of the football field, but she hadn't been vaccinated, and it was known, and so they basically pulled her offer to come and sing the national anthem. And they found out it's like a $20,000 song. If you get there, it's good pay to sing it. And she just made her decision. She said that that's between me and my doctor and my God. And she said, as of now, I don't feel God leading me to get a vaccination, so I'm not going to. Now, what you do, and anybody who pays attention to me knows, I love freedom. And you have the freedom to do, wear a mask, don't, get vaccinated, don't, but don't be making anybody else do it. And that's not what America's built on. We should be confident. The righteous, Proverbs says, are bold as a lion. The wicked flee when no man pursue it, but the righteous are bold as a lion. And we should be confident. We should be willing to get out of our houses and go do things. We should be willing to build. And I'm amazed at the young people who are afraid. Young people, almost no young people are dying from COVID. And children, again, less than almost, the statistics are so obvious. Young children, teens, young adults, they're not that they don't get sick, but man, we ought to be building youth and strength and energy. Ought to be out there jumping and doing something, jumping into this life and careers. And this is a great time to get started in a career because people can't get folks to go to work. And maybe I couldn't have gotten into a company 10 years ago because they had so many people. They're picking folks with more training. But right now, if they get a guy who'll show up, do what he's told, and not steal from them, and that's what I had a guy tell me. He said, Pastor, I'll hire somebody if he'll show up at work and he won't steal from me. That's all he's looking for. He said, I can teach him. I just need somebody honest that will work. And this is a day you can get in where 10 years ago you might not be able to. What a great day for young people to get in and get their foot in the door of a career and get those startup jobs and better jobs. But the point is here, who are we listening to? Who are you going to listen to? And I don't care if it's buying a car or, and again, you buy a car that wasn't the right car. It's not the end of the world. But I remember years ago, a family got saved here, and the dad died in an accident. And there was a single mom and two teenagers, and good young people, like a junior and senior in high school, brother and sister, and good kids came to everything at our church. And one day he called me up, the brother, and he said, "Hey, Pastor, I'm going with my sister into Corona. This is so long ago, you couldn't buy a car in our valley. You couldn't. I think there was a Kmart was the only thing in our valley besides fast food and a grocery store and some bars. And the nearest car dealership was in Corona, 30, 40 miles away. And he said, I'm going in because my sister wants to go look at a car, and I want to go make sure she doesn't get talked into something." And I said, good idea. And I'm thinking, oh, great, a 17-year-old and an 18-year-old go walking onto a car lot. And but anyway, so they went, and they came back, and both of them bought new cars. And it was terrible. And they lived through it. It was probably not the wisest thing to do. And God will judge that salesman for taking advantage of these two kids, I think. I don't know. But good advice, with good advice, make war. And don't just read any old thing that comes along. Don't just watch any old thing that pops up on the internet. Don't just read any old thing. Do you know people lie? The Bible says that God be true and every man a liar. And if I don't know the person bringing the information, I'm not reading it. I'm just not, because they could have all kinds of motives. Haven't we learned the last 2 or 3 years? We've seen deceit in Washington and in FBI and the Department of Justice. Now we've seen deceit and corruption in the medical world. We've seen medical testers lying about results. We have seen so much corruption going on, and so you look. If we're free, do what you want, but I would urge you to be very guarded who gets in your head, what information you get. And to me, if I don't know this is a reputable source, if I don't know this person, and there's books. Ecclesiastes says of the making of books, there's no end. And again, you want to read a novel, read it for a chapter or two, and then toss it out if it's no good. That's not the end of the world. But when you choose to get heart surgery and you didn't need it or whatever, and I don't know, I just want to encourage you with good advice. Changing jobs, that's big. Selling your home, that's big. Moving, that's big. After a tragedy is very difficult. After the death of a loved one, sometimes people pack up and move. Very, very delicate times. And you should get good advice from somebody maybe a little removed from the story. I've already made the decision, having watched several of my friends who were pastors whose wife died, and I saw them make some less than wise decisions. And 3 I've got on my mind right now. There's probably more, but I made a decision years ago. If my wife died, I would have to take one of my children or 2 of them and just say, I'm not making any decision without your okay. Because I've watched men lose their wife and then make very poor choices. And one man said, I just can't pastor. He'd started a church. It was a good church. I'm going to say running 500, 600, 700 maybe. And his heart broke, lost his wife to cancer, and he just quit. He just quit and walked away. Well, a year later, he's doing pretty good spiritually, and God's given him peace and grace. And now he's not pastoring, and now he wants to pastor. And someone else is in his pulpit, and good advice. Get good advice, and think through your decisions, and get a lot of Bible. And I think the best place to start with advice, I think you got to read our Bible each day and then ask God. God, help me know what to do. And God, if I need advice from somebody, help me find the right counselors. I'm not going to give you counsel on money. I'm not going to give you counsel on what electric car to buy. I don't have any idea of those kind of things. But there are people, good people, that you could trust, and probably not the salesman at the dealership. And put solar on your house or not. I've had 2 people come to our house. We sat down with them, talked over solar, and both of them said you shouldn't get solar. And these were solar salesmen. And so I'm thinking they were probably sincere because they had a reason to lie. But since one was a church member, I pretty well trust him. But good advice. Be careful what you read. Be careful what gets in your head. And by the way, in this culture, you can get discouraged. What you read and listen to will depress you. At the election, I quit listening to conservative news almost entirely. because it was so gloomy. And God's good and heaven's real and Jesus is coming again. And I'm not going to let a bunch of conservative newscasters get me gloomy. I can get gloomy all by myself. And I want the joy of the Lord to be my strength. And I want that for you too. Have a great day. Thanks for taking some time together. Let's be faithful to the King of Kings. Nobody like Jesus. Nobody so good. No one so faithful. No one so true. No book so wonderful. Stay close to him and he'll take care of us. God bless you. Have a great day.